Phyllis was born in Evansville, Indiana on January 4, 1921, the oldest daughter of Sam and Jenny Grusin. In 1940, she married Leon Weinstein of Birmingham, who was known by all as Chink, a nickname he had been teased with as a child and that he embraced as an adult. During the war, Phyllis followed Chink to army bases in other cities, and then after the war, they settled for good in Birmingham.
They were joined at the hip, joined at the heart, and what one did, the other did, and they took pride in helping each other and working together.
Chink opened a dental practice. They raised a family, 2 daughters, Lynn and Janie. Their home was a place where people loved to gather, where the candles were lit every Shabbos, and there was homemade challah and all the trimmings.
So through the years, they mentored me just in so many ways. And I actually learned about the birds and the bees from Uncle Chink.
And when he and Phyllis were married, they began both to take active parts in the community. They were among our leading citizens. And as everyone will tell you, Phyllis has a wonderful personality, so my wife and I became friends of her and Leon.
Chink was already a member of Temple Bethel, so the first organization Phyllis joined was the Temple Bethel Sisterhood, followed soon after by the Birmingham chapter of Hadassah.
And Phyllis was right there at the beginning with Sisterhood, and I joined Sisterhood. I didn't know anybody in Birmingham, and I thought this was going to be a good way for me to not only meet my fellow members, but just women in general. And there's Phyllis. She's always been the leader in front of my eyes.
As a delegate to the National Women's League, Phyllis made her mark. At the time, Alabama was grouped with 7 other southern states and Florida. Phyllis saw a problem with this setup and decided it needed to be corrected.
Well, Phyllis started watching as women attended things and found that Florida was so full of conservative synagogues and active women that every time there was an election, it was all Florida women winning. So Phyllis got the idea and decided we needed a separate branch. And years ago, they established an award that is given out every second year called the Phyllis Grusin Weinstein Award. And it's for the one woman in the region that really surpasses what her descriptive volunteer title calls for. And she is the one woman that steps back as far as titles, but steps forward as far as helping everyone else succeed.
Phyllis was involved from day one. She was able to involve a new segment of people that had not been involved before, as she does even today.
Like many leaders in the Jewish community, Phyllis served a term as president of the Birmingham Jewish Federation. Phyllis also served as chair of the Federation's Community Relations Committee.
And it was my first day, and Phyllis knocked on that door, came in, and said, "I'm Phyllis Weinstein, and I brought you a little something to start your career." And she proceeded to give me a wonderful sampling of her trademark brownies. She had, and still has, quite obviously, this wonderful sense of Jewish identity that I think so clearly demonstrates to anyone coming of age, and I was beginning a new career, how one should be Jewish.
And she got me involved, found me, latched onto me, and got me involved in the Community Relations Committee. She was really my one person you belong in Birmingham when I first moved here.
For Jews in Birmingham after World War II, when the horrors of the Holocaust became known, it was a short step to the understanding that prejudice and discrimination against blacks was wrong and could not be tolerated by the Jewish community.
Well, I've gotten to know Phyllis through her work with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and I really view her as a bridge builder. She really has a commitment to building bridges and communication between various communities in Birmingham, and of course her passion is educating people about the Holocaust.
And she was very instrumental in leading and providing the leadership for the Alabama Holocaust Organization, which later became the Alabama Holocaust Commission.
But Phyllis, as you would expect, was there almost from the beginning. I can't remember a time when she wasn't a part of it. And to say the least, in the state of Alabama, where the Jewish population is quite small, part of the role and the responsibility and kind of the mission of the Holocaust Commission was to educate the general population, students and others, about the Holocaust and the reasons behind the commemoration.
When the Holocaust commemoration was held in Birmingham in 2002, a planning committee was formed. After the commemoration, it was decided to keep the group going as the Birmingham Holocaust Education Committee, now known as the Birmingham Holocaust Education Center, or BHEC.
I went to Lynn Raviv, who was the principal at the day school, and I said, Lynn, you know, what's going on in Birmingham with Holocaust education? And she said, well, funny you should ask, because my mother is trying to get together a group on that very thing. You need to call my mother. Who's her mother? It was Phyllis Weinstein. So I called Phyllis Weinstein, and she invited me to a meeting at the JCC. You know, she was sort of this very quiet leader who had an idea that we needed to improve the visibility of Holocaust education. We had survivors in our community that very few people knew their stories, valuable stories that needed to be brought out and kept alive, and that is what motivated this group.
Alabama Holocaust survivors have told their stories in hundreds of middle schools, high schools, and colleges around the state. Over the years, the impact on students has been profound. As one young student wrote to the survivors who spoke at his school, I was so happy that you came to our school. I was very touched, and I will tell my children and my children's children. I can't believe that we had this once-in-a-lifetime chance.
As a survivor, I feel very strongly that education is the only way that we can get this problem of hatred and bigotry resolved. And the best way is to approach the young people by visiting schools or organizations and spreading the word.
Under Phyllis's leadership, the BHEC started teacher workshops and a scholarship program to send Alabama teachers to national training programs. The Darkness into Life exhibit, produced by BHEC, tells the story of Alabama Holocaust survivors through photography and art, and has been on display at schools, libraries, and museums all over the state, including the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. When asked why she has worked so hard to promote Holocaust education, Phyllis replied, "It was something that needed to be done." This is Phyllis's history in a nutshell. When she saw something that needed to be done, she did it in her quiet, modest, efficient way. When asked what she was most proud of in her many contributions to Jewish life in Birmingham, Phyllis answered without hesitation, the day school. She went on to say, Jewish education is critical to the continuation of Jewish life in a community. To date, over 1,000 students have graduated from the N.E. Miles Jewish Day School.
Phyllis and Abe Kaplan and I get credit for founding the school, but our leadership really was Phyllis. She had the vision, she had the energy, she was responsible for the curriculum. She was the glue that kept us together. And we ate a lot of good food at her house.
As everyone in Birmingham came to know, if Phyllis had a hand in a project, it would be completed.
She opens doors that I thought would never be possible. You know, a little group, an all-volunteer group that meets the way we do to have accomplished what we have accomplished is because of Phyllis Weinstein, because she dreams big and she makes it happen.
The thing that I think I've learned from her is that there's power in gentleness.
She's really a force of nature. When she believes in something and believes it's good for the Jewish and the secular communities, she organizes, she cares, she gives, she prods, she pushes, and she gets people involved in a very positive way.
Phyllis is a formidable person, and if you're going to be on her team, it's a team that plays for keeps, plays for real, gets things done, and it will affect you.
We as survivors are very appreciative of her leadership, her dedication, and I mean, she's an amazing individual. That's all I can tell you. It's an amazing individual, yeah.
Mentoring and education seemed to be her way to help build for the future.
I think she probably influenced my desire for the volunteerism that I've been involved with.
And nobody fails to observe an invitation from Phyllis, because if you don't do what she wants, she'll get a higher and more responsible job for you.
She's been one of the real joys in my life in terms of expanding my horizons, giving me new perspectives, helping me learn so much more than I otherwise would have ever known about.
She's a wonderful girl. I take that back. She's a wonderful lady.
She's just an amazing, amazing lady. Nobody is quite like her, and that has a lot to do with her longevity. She still has the energy, the intellect, the passion, the commitment to anything and everything she does.
I think of her as a cross in our Jewish community between Golda Meir and Margaret Thatcher.
The negative is that when you go to an event, she's always there. And if you want to hug her or kiss her or tell her something, you had to get in line.
When you mention Phyllis, I smile because I believe that everyone who knows Phyllis would instinctively smile when you say Phyllis Weinstein. That would be a smile.
Thank you, Phyllis, for letting us tell your story today to show you how you're honored by this community. We know you don't like the limelight, you don't seek it, but there are lessons to be learned from your story, and we want to preserve that story and pass it on to future generations. We also want you to know how appreciated you are by this community and how much you are loved. Thank you, Phyllis.